Hello and welcome back to Norway in Northern Norway. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how to photograph northern lights, and in particular how to do time lapses of them. This is she's going to be helping us out, and she's my favourite dog here at Tromso Centre where I'm working. Now, first of all, I've got to say I am no expert in photography. However, I do spend a lot of time doing photography, and I've spent a lot of time out there taking time lapses of northern lights, and so yeah, I thought I would share with you my experiences. If you want to know the real ins and outs, there might be some other good photography vlogs to watch, but if you want to hear from someone who goes out and does it in the Arctic and the Antarctic, then that's why I'm here today. So let's crack on into it. Hey Izzy, do you want to help, or are you going to be annoying? I'd like to start by explaining just how difficult it is to photograph northern lights. You have to get a combination of timing the lights, good weather so you can actually see the sky, and then you have to get everything right with the time lapse. So I do recommend practicing a lot before, and that way you get out there on the day, you begin to see the northern lights, and you're able to actually capture a really good time lapse of it, and then you've got to finish by editing it afterwards. It's best if you can start the time lapse before or as the northern lights start. And this can be really hard to tell, but there is some apps that you can use to help predict when the northern lights are going to start, and obviously it's going to start after dark. So maybe once it starts to get dark, you can start looking at the sky and perhaps you can work out when it's going to happen. If you walk outside and you see amazing northern lights, still by all means start your time lapse, because sometimes it might dip and then it comes back again, or you just never really know what's going to happen. There's a really good app called Aurora that you can use to see what the KP index is, and how much radiation is coming from the sun and what the prediction is, and you can use that to help decide when to begin your time lapse. What are you going to need? You're going to need a camera, preferably with a wide lens. Clean it obviously before you go out, and the bigger the lens, the more light gets let into it, and the better your picture quality is going to be. So I have a few different cameras and not so much money, so I just have kit lenses on my Sony a6-300, and I would love to get a bigger lens so I can see more of the sky. If budget is a problem, then you're going to have to consider that, but if budget's not a problem, get yourself the widest, biggest lens as possible. Now, you will be taking long exposure pictures, so a tripod is essential, and I use a Gorilla Pod. Because the time lapse is going to go for some time, I do recommend having a power supply if you can. So what I use is a little external battery which is about the size of my phone, and it actually plugs in via USB to my camera, so I use that. And if I was doing a time lapse over a full day or more, then I would probably go back and change the battery, the external battery, a few times, or I would try to do it close to a building where I could actually get a USB charger out to the camera. Now, this is what I did in Antarctica, and if you're in extreme cold, the external battery that you're using is probably going to go flat very fast. But what you can do is get a chemical heat pack and put that in with a battery, and in Antarctica I put that inside a glove, inside a hat, inside a jacket, and that keeps the battery warmer. You can also use some duct tape or something and put heat pads around the camera to keep the camera battery warm as well. When you're photographing in extreme cold temperatures, you have to keep your batteries warm, and also remember you want to do as much of the preparation inside where your hands are warm, and so you have less stuff to do outside when you have to wear gloves or even knitting if it's extreme cold, -10, -20 or -40 below. So prep before you go outside. If you know that you will be photographing northern lights in a really cold place, you might like to check out my line of possum fur hats, scarves and mittens. They will definitely help you out and keep you a lot warmer outside. These are made from Gorge River caught possum fur and sewn on a solar powered sewing machine. If you are interested, there's a link in the description below the video to my handcraft store on my wildkiwiadventurer.com website, and you can check out my possum products there. I have tested these in Antarctica and I almost guarantee you will not find a warmer hat. So the best northern lights occur in places where you don't have light around you. So you want to get away from cities, away from buildings and that sort of thing. So you want the darkest place that you can be. And you're going to have to look at the sky. And if you have seen northern lights there before, then it's a lot easier. But you have to guess where the northern lights are going to occur, or else you wait for the first part of the northern lights and then set your camera up. And so you need to focus, either some people put to infinity, or I personally focus on a star. Ez has been away on holiday. She just got back. Moving on to camera settings. You want to have a low aperture, otherwise your photos are going to get grainy. Now I usually do 2000 for northern lights. If you have a bigger lens, you might be able to have a different aperture. For me, I find 2000 is good, and any less than that and the photos are quite dark. As is with any night photography, shutter speed is critical. And shutter speed for northern lights, for me, 3 to 8 seconds, and it depends on how bright the lights are and how dark the night is. And I'm going to give you 3 examples later in this video of actual time lapses I've taken of northern lights, and we'll go through the exact settings on that. The wider your lens, the lower the shutter speed can be, therefore the less blurry the northern lights are, because northern lights can move quite a lot in 6 seconds while your camera lens is open. Now once you have all of that set up, you want to take a test shot and see what it actually looks like. Take your time and take plenty of test shots so that you get it right and you get it looking how you want it before you commit to 1 hour or more of time lapse. Now once you have everything set up and you're happy, crack into it. Start the time lapse, and I also turn the brightness down on my screen so that the battery is going to last longer. And I, on my camera, can do a maximum 990 images, and that will give me a time that it's going to take. And I will set a timer on my phone so I know when the time lapse finishes, because if I'm outside when the time lapse finishes, the northern lights might still be awesome, or it might be better than your first time lapse. And so therefore I want to continue taking. So I might sometimes take one time lapse, 1 hour 30 minutes, and then I'll see the lights are great and I will turn it back on again for the second one. Or perhaps the night sky is completely black, there's no northern lights, and then we're finished for the night. And just have patience, because it's not easy to photograph northern lights and it can be quite frustrating. This year I have had 100% success rate. Every night that I've taken time lapse of the lights have been there. They've been okay to amazing, and I've got some really cool time lapses. Now let's crack into 3 examples that I'm going to show you. So this first example has got an ISO of 2000, shutter speed 5 seconds, aperture 3.5, an interval of 6 seconds. So this interval is the time between taking pictures, and the shutter speed is 5 seconds. So 5 seconds the shutter is open, and then there's 1 second for it to save the image, and then the next image starts to take itself. And then this is shown in playback speed of 0.75. The editing of northern lights is quite important as well, and my camera will just give me a whole lot of pictures and a video, and to be honest I usually just use the video. I don't go and edit all the pictures. And that video is in 30 frames per second, so if I slow that down by half, then it's 15 frames per second, and the lights suddenly look a little bit slower but a little bit more juttery, and you can see the space between the pictures. So I prefer to have at least 0.75 speed, or preferably full 30 frames per second, but the lights will move very quickly. And so for that time lapse, the time was 1 hour and 38 minutes that I was taking 990 images. Now moving on to time lapse 2, we have a little bit of moon in this one. The moon's not up, but it is somewhere over the horizon, so there is a little bit of light from the moon. Therefore it's a little bit brighter, as you can see. So again, ISO is 2000, shutter speed 5 seconds, aperture is 3.5, interval 6, so the same as time-lapse 1, and playback speed is full speed, 30 frames per second, and time again is 1 hour 38 minutes for 990 images. Now moving on to time-lapse 3. Now this is probably the most interesting one, I thought. Northern Lights are not so strong, but I really enjoyed the clouds coming over. There was a lot of moon in this one, so therefore there was a lot of light, so I could bring down my shutter speed. So shutter speed is 3 seconds on these. I allow 1 second to save the image, so interval between images is 4 seconds, and the time for 990 images was only 1 hour 5 minutes. So therefore the lights are going to move a little bit slower while still getting my 30 frames per second, if that makes sense. And I think this was quite cool. I enjoyed this one probably the most. And I really liked the clouds coming over, and with the moonlight out in the snow, all of the foreground is lit up a little bit as well, which is really cool. Great, I hope you enjoyed those examples, and if you do have any questions, please just comment down below and I will be sure to reply and give you some tips and advice. So that's all from us today. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you learned something from it. If you do like my channel, please be sure to like, share, comment and subscribe. And when you subscribe, click the little bell icon. That way you'll be notified about my next videos. Anyway, that's all. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed.